This is a video I've been wanting to make for a long time. I'm not entirely sure if it will be useful to anyone, but it has been a source of hair frustration for me for as long as I can remember.
I adopted 4 African American girls several years ago, and I was combing my granddaughter's hair one day, and she said to me, "Don't mess with my kitchen."
Has anyone heard of the term kitchen with respect to hair? As a Black girl growing up in the South and attending pretty much all Black grade schools before any type of natural hair movement, this was a term that was thrown around quite a bit, mostly in the context of ridicule. For example, your kitchen is nappy, your kitchen wasn't well groomed. You're talking about that very textured area of hair at the nape of your neck. And while I think good grooming practices for this area are important, I think far too much effort and emphasis was put upon taming or trying to make this area less kinky, especially with relaxers to try to achieve a certain aesthetic. For example, if you had certain softer, less kinky hair textures, back then at least, you didn't really have to worry about doing anything with your kitchen. And growing up with these types of messages, it was very difficult not to internalize that certain textures were better than others in that respect. But that's a topic for another day. What I really want to focus on today is good grooming practices for this area, irrespective of texture. So if you're someone like me whose hair grows wild back there, and by this I'm really again talking about distribution of hair, not texture, then this video might be helpful for you. Here are the biggest 5 mistakes I've made in grooming my kitchen and how you can avoid them. I'm going to tell you about these mistakes as I actively groom my kitchen today, so let's get started. Mistake number 1 is not grooming my kitchen. When I think about the aesthetic I want to present to the world, the word that comes to mind is polished. And part of that polished aesthetic is to have hair that is well groomed, hairs that are in place. So in general, grooming of this area is important if that is your goal. As a side note, if you don't groom this area appropriately, you might be reticent to wear your hair in updos just because you lack that neat, groomed appearance when you do put your hair up. So what do I mean by grooming? The first thing you want to do is brush your hair back there, daily and preferably after applying a moisturizer. Hair there is a bit more exposed to the elements and comes in contact with your clothes, so it tends to be a little bit drier. So you want to brush it to smooth the area and also get rid of any tangles. I found that combing generally doesn't work as well for this area, though you can use a fine-tooth comb if that's what you have available. The second thing you want to do is to use a trimming tool to make your hairline a little neater, especially if you have hair that grows a little bit further down past your natural hairline. I'm going to show you how I've been doing this lately. You could opt for scissors or a razor or even a larger sort of trimming device, but there are pros and cons to all of those choices. So I'll get into why I use this particular device. So this is the Precision Perfect Hair Trimmer by Philips. Not sponsored, but it's a really nice, compact way to trim the hairs at the nape of your neck. It's very easy to maneuver, very easy to get at those areas. It's battery operated and it cost me $12.95 at CVS, so very affordable. I like this option better than the larger option I showed earlier because again, it's very compact and just a little bit easier to maneuver. You can see the blade there. And it also comes with a separate attachment. It's called the trimming comb that you can attach to the head of the blade. And I think that's made for shaping or defining eyebrows. So I don't actually use that attachment portion, but here I'm just showing what it looks like here if you were to opt to use that. It has a very easy toggle on and off switch here, very natural and intuitive to use. So it was a very good purchase from my perspective. So as I actively start to clean up my hairline, let me go ahead and get into mistake number 2. And that is actually over grooming your kitchen. So I showed a little outline of the hair that I'm going to remove. Really, I'm just focusing on removing the hair that's growing outside of my natural hairline, as you can see here. And really what over grooming would mean would be shaving more than just that hair that's growing outside of your natural hairline, going deeper into the hairline and removing some of that thicker hair. And that's not advisable. I'm actually suffering from the aftermath of having done just that. I'll go ahead and zoom in so you can see. So you can tell that my twists start not at my natural hairline, but far deeper into the hairline. And that's because a couple of months ago, I decided to shave my entire kitchen. And so the hair that was there is just now slowly starting to go back. So when I did my twists, I actually couldn't twist that area because it was so short. So the bad part about shaving more of your kitchen than you need to is that you have to maintain it. And if you don't, it's just gonna grow back and sometimes thicker and more dense. And it doesn't necessarily look good when it starts to grow back. And it can't really fit in with the other hair. So I would definitely advise that you don't go farther into the hairline than you need to, because you'll end up with a situation like this. I'm not in love with the fact that my twists start so far away from my hairline, but as my hair in the kitchen area starts to grow back, I'll definitely be able to twist it again. Yes, certainly try to avoid this mistake, guys. On to mistake number 3, and that is shaving the hair, but shaving a little too closely to the skin, essentially a close shave. Personally, I have found when I try to shave too closely to the skin, I'm a little bit more prone to things like ingrown hairs and skin irritation and razor bumps. So it's really important to just do a sort of gentle trim, something that will allow you to remove the hair but not necessarily irritate the skin. I have also found that when I use razors, I have more irritation than when I use a device like this. And again, I think that's because I'm not getting a super close shave with this device, but just enough so that it looks groomed. I also don't get that itchiness that you can sometimes get when you use a razor when the hair starts to grow back, which is also good. I'm interested to know how an epilation device might work in this area, but I haven't actually tried one yet, so I might try that in the future. So in summary, my advice is don't shave too closely so you can avoid ingrown hairs, skin irritation, and razor bumps. So mistake number 4, and this is really just sort of a general kitchen maintenance strategy, and that mistake is not separating the shorter nape hairs that you have from the rest of your hair. Have you guys ever noticed that the hair at the nape of your neck tends to grow shorter than the rest of your hair? I know that's not just me. Not only is there a length difference usually, but there's also a texture difference. It coils more on itself, it tangles more, it's more prone to breakage. I found that when I separate out and style the nape hair separate from the rest of my hair, essentially making it its own separate section, it tends to do better in terms of length retention. So what do I mean? For example, if I were doing twists, instead of including the shorter hair in a twist that has longer strands of hair, I would instead do separate twists for those parts of my hair that were shorter. So short with short and long with long. This lets me focus on giving those areas of my hair that don't tend to grow as well or as long and are more prone to breakage a little more extra care, a little more extra moisture, and just sort of help them to thrive a little bit better. Because again, they're separated out, I can identify them and I can make it a point to give them a little bit of extra care. I haven't been doing this lately and it certainly shows. So definitely a thought to consider for yourself. So now moving on to the 5th and final mistake, and that is not loving my texture. So it's 2021 and we are way overdue to start loving our natural textures just the way they are. So this is not really a mistake as much as it is a conscious decision to make a mindset shift in how I even think about nape hair. It's not something that's shameful because of its texture and kinkiness, as some of us have been taught to believe. Groom it, yes, but do not be ashamed of your hair, even your nape hair, exactly the way it grows out of your head. And don't make derogatory comments about other people's nape hair if they choose not to groom it, especially if they have kinkier textures, which just reinforces negative, misinformed stereotypes. And that's all I have to say on the matter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and happy grooming.